A world where religious zealotry and patriarchy have taken control, women are horrifically oppressed, and life is pretty grim.
That sounds a lot like our world.
What is good, YouTube? My name is Ash Porter and welcome back to the channel. Whether you realised it or not, last week I actually had a week off. I was off work, off making videos, all that kind of stuff. I also got a pretty drastic haircut. I don't know if you like it, my wife likes it, so I'm okay with it. But anyway, this week I've got a double whammy for you looking at The Handmaid's Tale and the sequel, The Testaments. As usual, the video will be split into two sections. The first part will be like the non-spoilery bit, spoiler-free zone, where I kind of review the books, talk about why not, or why you should read the books. You should read these books. And then the second part of the video will be me talking a bit about the story, the plot lines, and obviously that means there's spoilers. The Handmaid's Tale was first released back in 1985 and it is now considered like a vintage classic. It is studied in schools apparently. Not that I studied it, though I think it'd be a sick book to study in school. And honestly, it's a must read. The book follows the story of like a Christian fundamentalist regime rising up in response to a fertility crisis of the time, set in like, I think it's like the late 80s, early 90s, which for them, when it was written, it was kind of like a dystopian future. Obviously now, it's like an alternate reality. In this book, we follow the story of Offred. That wasn't actually her real name, like before the regime and the zealotry and Gilead existed, but that's her name that she got given within Gilead, which is based in like Northeast America, that kind of region. And we follow her and the brutal lifestyle she has to lead within Gilead, within her role as a handmaid. And then the long-awaited sequel, The Testaments, came out a whopping 34 years later in 2019. That's a long time for those of you who are waiting for a sequel and couldn't just read it like I did. And this again is an absolute must read. It follows the story 15 years later with some slightly different protagonists. You may have also heard of the TV show, which in the UK it's currently on Amazon Prime, The Handmaid's Tale. So this, I'm pretty sure, from what I understand, I have not seen it as usual. Well, not as usual, I do watch some TV, but I have not seen it. But from what I understand, it covers the first book, and then Margaret Atwood was involved in like making some of the story as it continues. And so I think the TV show at the moment is in this weird space between book 1 and book 2 that kind of got made up for the sake of TV deals. Anyway, I haven't watched it though. I've heard really good things about it, so go watch the TV show if you want to. However, what I always will say, and is pretty much right 99% of the time, the book is always better. You know, although this book is set in 1980s North America, it's one of those reads where you read it and it's quite scary because it feels a bit too real, a bit too like in 21st century, 2021, the world. It could happen. Like even for a country like the UK, it feels like, you know what happens if a religious extremists take over the government and take control of a country and bring in this new regime. Like, obviously in the West, we don't really experience that kind of stuff, but that happens in other places in the world. You know, military coups or religious extremism, stuff like that happens, and it feels quite a scary thing. But back to the books, what I will say, I just hit my finger on my desk. That really hurt. But back to the books, what I will say is that these two books are absolutely engrossing. Like from the start, you're not really given a lot of information. You're sort of fed breadcrumbs throughout the plot that even by the end of the first book, you don't really know how Gilead came into existence. You don't really know your main character that well. Like you see glimpses, you read flashbacks, but you still don't know really who Offred is. You don't know about her family really before Gilead, and there's so little detail. All you know is the sort of existence in which you get to look through a window into. And I think the reason why this style of writing really gripped me is because there's so little information, because you're trying to literally eat breadcrumbs to try and understand the story and work out the background and how this all came to be, it kind of lets your imagination work more rather than being told this and this led to these events. You kind of have to try and piece it together, work it out for yourself. And I think it just makes the reading experience that more exciting and enjoyable. Obviously, this style of writing can't be used the whole time. Sometimes it's necessary to know what's going on, but I think Atwood uses this incredibly well in these two novels. And to put it simply, if you haven't already, go away and read these books. I rate them so highly. I didn't know what to expect about them. You know, initially when you hear The Handmaid's Tale, you're thinking it's going to be some like historical piece, maybe like a romantic historical piece, but it's not. It's seriously insane, and I recommend these books so much. Guys, if you are enjoying this video or have enjoyed any others, please consider dropping the video a like, subscribing to my channel. I'm trying to currently reach just 50 subscribers, which I'm just a few away from, and it would be a really cool milestone for me, and I'd really appreciate the support. Also, comment below, have you read these books? Did you enjoy them? What do you think of them? I'd love to know. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Right, now we're in the spoiler section. Honestly, these books, you should know this, they're an absolute madness, and I feel like there's so much to talk about. Right, the first thing I want to say is both of these books were quality, but in my opinion, The Testaments was just on a whole nother level to The Handmaid's Tale. Like, obviously The Handmaid's Tale is quality, like it's so good, it builds this world, it sucks you straight in, it lays down the foundations for what is to come. But I just was blown away by The Testaments. You know, the first book, Aunt Lydia is this scary figure which you're like, she is absolutely like crazy, she's a monster, and you're just like, oh, the worst person ever. And she kind of is, but then the insight you get in the second book when you follow her, and it's her plot to bring down Gilead. And like, I kind of suspected it like earlier on in the book, but I wasn't 100% sure, so I can't say I like totally predicted it. But it was just so good hearing like the foundation story, how she basically chose to survive, and then so she didn't really believe in the faith side of it and the regime of it, but she wanted to survive, and she did everything she could to survive. I think it was just incredible. And it was interesting, wasn't it, how like I said, she didn't believe in the regime, she just wanted to survive, but slowly, because of that instinct and because of her skill set and just, I guess, pot luck, she's like rose quickly to be one of the most powerful people in Gilead. Like, someone who doesn't even believe in it became one of the most powerful and influential people leading this movement. Just like, it's a bit crazy, really. And I also, you know, 34 years is a long time to wait for a sequel. And I thought what she did well is she answered a lot of questions that you have after you read The Handmaid's Tale. Obviously, you want to know what happened to Offred's first child. Where is she? What happened to her when she escaped and she's pregnant with Nick's baby? What does the rest of the world think? What's going on with the rest of the world? How far has this idea of Gilead spread? And I guess what's good is, much like the first book, it's slowly revealed to you. It's not done away with, like, where it's kind of splurges out all the like fan answers or what everyone wants to hear. She slowly reveals these things that you want to know more of, until you get that very like happy ending at the end when they're all united or reunited. What I also really enjoyed about these books is that it's so like women centric. It's focused around the power of women, and you know, obviously the main theme is that actually Gilead is meant to be oppressive. It's meant to be subjugating women into these specific roles, and that's absolutely horrific. But I think what Atwood does really well is she writes about these incredible women, these powerful women, these heroic women, these brave women who are trying to change or shape the society. And you know, these books, they have some good male characters in it. You know, you have Nick in the first one, you have some of the Mayday operatives in the second one, but actually it's all about powerful women trying to escape this oppression and leading a resistance. It's even exemplified, you know, the aunts within Gilead. They're, you know, although officially they're not the most powerful, it's like the commanders and stuff. Realistically, those aunts are probably some of the most powerful people in that like country, and they're women. And obviously I'm a guy, so I can't share that experience of like womanhood and understand what it is like to live under these oppressive tones, you know, even in our world today. However, reading these books, it just feels like actually there's such a message of the empowerment of women. What was also interesting for me was like reading this from a Christian perspective in terms of this zealot extremist organization was meant to belong to like a Christian faith, a Christian sect, and it claimed to, although it's clear, and you, especially in the Testaments, you find out there's a lot of manipulation and of scripture and changing it and lying and this kind of stuff. But actually, like, it breaks my heart, because the reality is we know this happens all the time. It may not happen where a whole nation the size of America is overtaken by it, but actually people take something like the Bible, like scripture, and which for me is so important and is truth, and they manipulate it and they corrupt it to bend it to their will. And I thought this was such an interesting example of that. It's also crazy how like they use it so often. People think that Christianity or religion is meant to oppress women, but actually from my understanding of the Bible, there's, especially in the New Testament with Jesus, there's so much about empowering women. And so it's almost, this regime is a clear example of when that has been corrupted and manipulated for the sake of gaining power. And then finally, I kind of mentioned it a minute ago, but it's one of those times where you really wanted a happy ending at the end of the second book, like at the end of the Testaments. You're just begging for that family to be reunited. And although you don't necessarily experience that moment with them, you're told it happens. Offred, whatever her real name is reunited with her daughters. And they're reunited with their dads, I think. And yeah, and it's just a happy ending that's deserved. There we go, and that has been me discussing both The Handmaid's Tale and the Testaments. These really are two quality books, two pieces of fiction which I didn't know anything about, and they absolutely blew me away, and I cannot recommend them more. I have been Ash Porter. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.